To say that this smartwatch has been long awaited is an understatement at best. This is definitely the smartwatch that everybody's been talking about. The leaks have been talking about it for years, and we finally have a smartwatch from Google that gives us the latest and greatest and the Google-esque experience on a smartwatch. But we also have the collaboration with FitBIt since Google owns FitBIt. So, what are the things that I like and the things that I did not like about the brand new Pixel Watch from Google? And I've been using it for the last couple of weeks, and I've used it with two different devices, and I'll explain to you guys why I'm not using it only on a Pixel device. This is TK, and this is my review of the Pixel Watch LTE edition from Google. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. Here's everything that comes in the box. The Google Pixel Watch LTE, that's the one I'm going to be reviewing for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit more about the LTE specifically here on this since I have it connected. It does come with the charger, the watch itself, with the band. There is an additional short band. By default, it does come connected with the long one. I'll let this one, here we are. This is the longer one. There is a shorter band inside, and that's pretty much it. The wireless charger is going to be used to charge up our watch, and of course it's connected via USB-C. No charging brick in the box. You just need to connect this to any of your smartphone device or smartphone chargers, and this is going to be able to run. I've been connecting it to my PC and charging from there. Charging the smartwatch is pretty straightforward. Nothing really to do on the watch itself. You just put it on the charger and automatically starts charging. Now right now this has been running since this morning. It lost about 25%. It's on Friday, as you can imagine. Very simple, very easy. It does technically charge, or you are able to put it on a Samsung charger, but for some reason it doesn't keep working. It keeps disconnecting and reconnecting. And conversely, this little charger will also charge your Pixel Buds Pro if you have them, so definitely very nice and handy. But you do need to bring this with you whenever you're traveling, as this needs to be charged on the daily. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned to you guys that I've been using it with two different devices. I started off with the Pixel 7 Pro because that's obviously how you'd start it off. The Pixel Watch should be running with the Pixel 7 Pro. That's ideally how you'd marry them since you have the device. But what happened to me is when I was trying to get this smartwatch connected via LTE, meaning I contacted my carrier, in this situation was T-Mobile, I needed to end up having it connected, and it needed to be paired. This is considered to be a companion watch or companion accessory to your smartphone. Different than some of the other smartwatches that we've seen in the past, like the Galaxy Watch and with other watches that are available, like the Ticwatch LTE. Those are considered to be more standalone. This is designed by design, it's meant to be a companion, meaning it needed to be connected to a specific phone number, and at the time that number was connected to my Fold. So for that reason, at the time, I needed to disconnect and reconnect, and I wasn't ready to transfer all my content from this device to my secondary SIM card that I had in here, and T-Mobile was not going to let me switch them easily as from one to the other. So for that purpose alone, I reset the watch and I went straight forward over here, but I made sure to sync up my data, so all the data has been in here can be transferred since it actually syncs up directly to the FitBIt application. But that's the main reason why you see two phones on this table and why we're going to be looking at the data from the Z Fold 4. Because when I activated LTE, all of my information now shows up on this device because the SIM card in here is paired to the eSIM that's built in here on the watch itself. Okay, talking about the design overall, you'll notice there's a very big difference in what this smartwatch offers and essentially what it looks like to some of the other options that we have that are considered to be more of a Pro edition. So this is the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. The overall performance here, obviously it's a much bigger device, much bigger display, and of course, much bigger battery, which we'll also talk about this in a little bit. So let's go ahead and go back. Battery is about 75%. The biggest thing that you'll probably notice overall is that a lot of the functionalities between the two are very similar, but the size and the battery capacity is dictating how long this device will last, which is roughly about 2 to 3 days, to what this device will last till about basically about 24 to 27 hours at the max. And again, that's without having LTE as the main connection. That's having it between Wi-Fi and Bluetooth running directly to your smartphone most of the time. LTE, we'll talk about that a little bit more, it does drain the battery a lot faster, as you can imagine. When we compare it to the Ticwatch, of course, there's a very similar experience, a much bigger watch, overall experience here. This looks and basically operates a little bit more like a regular smartwatch or a regular watch because of the size in comparison. Bigger display, and of course, this can last easily up to 3 days as well. No need to really charge it all the time. And again, one of the biggest things that you'll probably notice overall between this device and here is that this one obviously doesn't have a secondary display. This does, that's part of the Ticwatch technology, but overall from a form factor, at least from a male standpoint, being that this is a 41mm band or supported band here, this is definitely going to be on the smaller side for most men, especially when you're wearing them for an extended amount of time. So you can imagine on me, this looks a little bit smaller than what I typically would get, let's say when I put the Ticwatch next to it, or even when I put the Samsung Galaxy Watch, you could definitely see there's a big difference in what you're getting. But again, it depends on the design, and I do hope at some point that Google will release maybe a Pro edition or a bigger version of this for us to be able to use, at least for some of the people that have bigger wrists. But I've been using it and it basically works pretty well. Now, from a design standpoint, as you can see, it definitely looks like a Pebble. It's very nice. We have a speaker, we have a built-in microphone as well, so we're able to actually communicate with this, receive and make phone calls. The crown itself is a push button. You push it in and you're able to basically kind of go home or open up the application drawer. Pressing and holding the button on the top right launches the assistant. Let's go ahead and close that up right now. Swiping from the left, we have access to the mapping information here. We also have on the right side the steps, the counting. These are basically built into FitBIt. This is basically where FitBIt is shining. They're going to be tracking all of the health information. As far as exercising, you can go into more. We're going to click that. And then, of course, you can basically see the plethora of exercise options that you have available. This is, again, one of the main leveraging benefits that we get here with this. This one is a sleep cycle. This is basically tracking my sleep from last night. I got 6 hours and 7 minutes. You can definitely see here from 10 p.m. to about 5 a.m. in the morning. The other thing, of course, what we have the ability to do in here is obviously going into the calendar event and, of course, weather and add additional options. If I press the button here, it takes me back home. Swiping from the top, we have access to the toggles. We have the Google Home, the ability of turning on the light, so basically the display as a flashlight, Google Pay, airplane mode, where's my phone, of course, the display brightness, sleep mode, it's present here for nighttime tracking, do not disturb, vibration. The battery level is about 51%. I took it off the charger early this morning. And of course, we have the settings, and this is currently connected via Bluetooth, and that's what we're seeing there. And of course, notification, this is for sound. If I swipe up, if I circle the option up, I get the information this way. If I swipe down, I take it automatically. So you don't really actually have to swipe, although I will say the UI element is super, super fast and very, very intuitive and very simple and very easy to actually interface with. This is basically my Nest Cam from the front door. Pressing and holding on the screen, as you can imagine, you can change the different displays, different watch faces that are preloaded. And one of the really nice things is you can also customize them also on the watch. So it's not limited to having it available directly in there. Last but not least, pressing the app drawer, we have access to all of the different applications in here, messages, agenda, the different options are here, camera, calm, cardio, and we have an ECG, obviously the FitBIt ECG option as well. Last but not least, hand wash, different things. You have obviously the Google Home application for configuration, media control for music, messages, phone for making and receiving phone calls, as I mentioned to you guys. One of the things we keep in mind, obviously, when we go into the settings tab, we have connectivity, and that gives us access to be able to see where our mobile network, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. Those are the primary 3 radios that we use, and we also have NFC for payment. But for mobile, since I'm using it with LTE on T-Mobile, that's going to be the configuration there. Display, gestures, apps, configuration, Google, sound, all the different options. I don't have always on display on right now, so if I put my hand on it, let it go to sleep, it does not wake up unless I do the gesture to wake. And I think that's one of the main benefits that I get to get the battery going to 27 hours or so. Location, safety, accessibility, security, and of course, under system update. Current version is Android 11 or Wear OS 3.5 with Android security patch update of July 1st, 2022. When it comes down to the health tracking information, you can definitely see here we have the heart rate, and it keeps going on all day long, and it keeps tracking that information on there. So if I swipe to the right here, I'll see it. Heart rate information, it's consistent, as you can see here, at high of 87, low of 62. And then, of course, there are other additional things that you could do in there as well. So you go into the app drawer, and you can definitely initiate the FitBIt ECG. This is one of their measurements that are built in. It's not continuous, but it also requires you to basically hold, sit in a position where it's kind of nice and quiet, and then go through and allow it to actually do the measurement. Takes about 30 seconds, so I need to be a little bit quiet. I'll be right back. And once it's done, it says data collected and analyzing, and you can see here normal sinus rhythm, 70 beats per minute right now. And of course, the information will be in there, and when you're done, it registers it and puts it in the system, and you're able to see it directly on the application. But it's one of the really main benefits here that you get is the ability of having tracking, health tracking. Again, Fitbit level tracking built into a smartwatch, which is the biggest difference between this and a standard Fitbit. This is a smartwatch, and what makes this a smartwatch is the ability of interacting and responding back to text messages, reading emails, looking at pictures of some of the options that you get from there, outside of just getting the health tracking and footstep tracking. And also the ability of obviously interacting with the assistant, getting the information there, automation, a whole bunch of different things. And that's where the next level experience is going to be. A Fitbit is great at tracking health and, of course, tracking information for exercise and getting you to be part of the Fitbit community. This does that, plus adds a Wear OS, which gives us the smartwatch functionality and makes this a smart Fitbit tracker that we don't really have another option like that right now on the market. It's either a Fitbit or a Wear OS watch. Now we have them both. And one of the really main benefits that makes a smartwatch more beneficial than just having a Fitbit is that we do get the Fitbit tracking, also the ability of installing applications, something like this. This is Wear for Tesla, enabling me to control my Tesla directly from my watch, being able to unlock and lock my car, open up my trunk and close my trunk, turn on the fan to cool the car, stop and start charging, a whole bunch of different things that I can do from my watch without having to take out my smartphone, making this a smart Fitbit tracker, well, smartwatch fitness tracker at its best. Now, when it comes down to the Fitbit functionality, again, this is the ecosystem, the ability to sign up for Fitbit Premium, going into Discover, Community, challenging other Fitbit members. That's going to be one of the main benefits. But all your data basically aggregates straight from the watch into the Fitbit application. This is what you're going to be using to track your health, your sleep information, your steps, of course, miles walked, and of course, calories burned and all of that. Also, of course, being able to meet your on-the-move requirement, your goal for weight loss, if you have, how much water, how much food you've digested. A lot of that information is really nice and very informational. And of course, you're able to check it over time and see how the information kind of tracks over time, how you sleep, how you're doing. And of course, if you're doing well, and or if you have something to be concerned about. I think that's the biggest benefit here. One of the biggest things about this watch is the fact that this is a Fitbit and a smartwatch at the same time. And right now, we don't have anything else like that on the market. So that makes it one of the main benefits. ECG tracking, heart rate tracking, and Fitbit ecosystem tracking and involvement makes this a very unique experience. And the fact that it runs Wear OS, which means for the most part, you're able to customize it and of course get different watch faces, set up the tiles, the notification, Google Play Stores, download mobile network configuration if you do need to set it up. This is going to be one of the first things you do when you're setting it up, meaning you need to do this at the same time as you're setting up the watch so that you're able to configure it. And the reason, as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, why I'm using this over basically on a different phone, when I set up originally on my Pixel 7 Pro, that SIM card is not the one on this device, and there's a lot of information tied into that SIM card. So I ended up having to reset the watch, set up the mobile network, and of course configure it to the new phone. And this is why we're using it right now on the Z Fold 4. But this is an important step that you do need to do with your carrier, contacting them and making sure that you have the companion app to get the LTE functionality running. This is a companion, not a standalone watch, kind of like what we see with if we pick up the LTE model of either a Samsung watch or the Ticwatch available options, which typically are standalone. Now, what makes this unique over other devices, that if I go in here and go directly into the settings tab, I'm going to go into Bluetooth, I'm going to disable that. I'm going to also go back and go back from Bluetooth. We're going to go into Wi-Fi. We're going to disable Wi-Fi. And at this point, what's going to happen is that the watch will basically want to be able to connect to my phone. And the only way for it to connect is via LTE. Now we noticed that Wi-Fi came back on, and that's by default because it's intended to basically be the backup connection. It saves battery to use Wi-Fi, and this is one of the reasons why I have to always keep in mind on that. If you check on it now, it's connected via LTE. On this watch, on the system, it says now connected via the cloud. And that means that any notification that comes to my watch or to my phone will have to basically be pushed directly to my watch over the internet. An example would be, here I have here on my Pixel 7 Pro, I'm going to go ahead and send the message. I'll give it a second. It's going to go ahead and pop up on the front. You see it right there. And of course, on my watch, it comes up as a test. And of course, I'm able to respond back by just saying, we'll do the smiley face crying. We're going to go ahead and send that out. It's going to vibrate a little bit, telling me that it did send. I got the check mark sent in over there. And of course, now we can check it over there. We can see the message came back through. All of this done via mobile connectivity, and I think that's one of the biggest benefits here. Connectivity over LTE is going to be absolutely an easy thing because it's a companion function, not a standalone function. And of course, you can customize everything you want directly from here, just like any other Wear OS watch. But for tracking and for fitness information, the Fitbit application is going to be your home for that. Now, the last thing I did want to talk to you guys about, obviously, is how fast the system is. I mean, overall, the complications here are very easy to swipe. The gestures are also very nice. The button configuration here, if I press it one more time, swiping down, swiping up, all of that information runs really good. And what I really like about this is the fact that although the battery is not the largest on the market, which we'll talk about that in a second, this really works very nicely. I will say though, as far as LTE connectivity, it's not intended to be on LTE all the time. It's intended to be sporadically available on LTE. This is why under the settings tab, you typically have Bluetooth connectivity turned on, and we also have typically Wi-Fi connectivity turned on. So If you're at home and you're connected to, let's say you want to be able to use the watch, and so you walk away from it enough of a distance where Bluetooth is not connected to the phone anymore, it'll start getting your information directly over Wi-Fi connected via the cloud. So anywhere you're around the house, you're going to get notified if somebody is calling you, you get text messages, you can respond, you're not going to miss a beat. And if you go outside to run using GPS functionality, you're not going to miss a beat either, because the LTE keeps you connected and you'll always be informed. If you don't want to have LTE connected, you can turn that off and of course use it as a GPS watch, but it is obviously recommended to buy the GPS if that's going to be the intention. The LTE model will work great, although the battery will die a lot faster. It will not last a whole day. Overall, I think in an hour and a half, it went down about 10%, and that's a very fast drain, as the LTE radio needs to have a strong signal, and if it's seeking, it's always going to drain the battery faster. So that takes us into the next experience, and one of the concerns, or some of the things that I'm not going to say I don't like, but I'm concerned about, that this is something that it's going to be really coming down to about your usage and how you use the watch. This watch right now, with the 294 milliampere hour battery, I feel like just barely lasts a day. This is literally almost an experience like a smartphone. Every time you charge your smartphone, you're pretty much going to have to charge your watch, and it's going to be a seamless experience if you get into a habit of that. For me, I use my phone and my smartwatch 24 hours. I don't charge them overnight. I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I put the phone on the charger, I put the watch on the charger, and roughly about 6 o'clock in the morning, both of them are up and running, I'm ready to go, and everything is done. So that's one thing I'm saying more of a concern. If you're buying this watch because of the battery life that you've experienced with, let's say, FitBIt watches before, this doesn't have that. The integration of FitBIt and a smartwatch, unfortunately, at this point, is giving us an experience where the battery does not last as long, and this is going to be one of those experiences. But for the 24 hours, as long as you're not using an always-on display or on LTE all the time, you're going to be perfectly fine. I have LTE as a backup. If I step out of the house and I forget to bring the phone, it's on, it's ready to go, it covers me. Now, the next thing I probably would say is I wish there was a bigger size, or at least another option for size. This one is a nice watch, but unfortunately for my wrist, a 41 millimeter is a little bit too small. I'm typically used to a 42, maybe actually more like a 44 millimeter, something more along the line what we see with the smartwatches that we have on the market, a larger display and a larger footprint. This is definitely very nice, and again, very smooth, and it looks really good, but it's not necessarily a concern, but more so a preference for me, especially with my hands. I prefer having something a little bit bigger. So a 44 millimeter, hopefully maybe a pro edition of this later on, would definitely be very helpful. Now, the last thing we'll talk about obviously is LTE connectivity. I have it configured on T-Mobile, as you can see right there. It's connected and it's set up as a digits connection, or a companion to my smartphone. And it's going to be the way it is. You have to set it up, and it only works with one SIM card. So meaning, if I decide to change my phone from one device to another by switching my SIM card, my watch will always be connected to that number, and that's how it's going to be running. That's one of the biggest things that at least T-Mobile made it very clear for me. The one thing I will probably say though is that, again, the battery on this is not intended to basically last as long as you would like it to last with this type of connection. So although it will work, so you'll be able to go outside and go for a run and do your exercise and come back, you're probably going to need to charge the watch somewhat later on in the day, more so than you typically would have done it if you were just running on an on Bluetooth or in Wi-Fi. And I think that's also limited by the factor that, again, it comes back to the watch's battery. The battery that we have in here, not necessarily the largest one, but based on the SoC that we have in here, which is the Exynos 9110, and the fact, again, that we're running a smaller battery and of course a very powerful LTE, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios, the battery just needs a little bit more battery. The system needs more battery to be able to last longer. So that would be one of my things. Maybe better lifespan with LTE, but I love the fact that it overall is very nice. It does work and it does everything the way you need it, and it runs 100%. And I think I love that factor of this on the smartwatch. So the things I'm sharing with you guys today is obviously after using it for the last couple of weeks. The watch itself is absolutely fantastic from the sense of what it does. It integrates you into the Google ecosystem. It integrates you to the FitBIt ecosystem at the same time. And I think, again, one of the first things we have to appreciate is that this is what this watch is trying to do. It's giving us a FitBIt in an Android Wear ecosystem, meaning a smartwatch and a FitBIt married together. You get the smartwatch functionalities, the notification, the rich notification, the ability of responding, sending and receiving messages, sending and receiving phone calls, controlling your media on your phone, a lot of the things we typically use on our smartwatch, but then it comes over with custom applications installed from the Google Play Store, the ability of using the assistant, also installing different complications, customizing the experience a little bit more, and of course a much richer display that we typically see on smartwatches with custom watch faces that you can download directly from the Google Play Store. And of course, all of this on top of the integration with FitBIt, which means if you love FitBIt and you've lived with that, this is definitely a more of a functional upgrade to that. I don't think it necessarily competes with somebody that just loves the functionalities that we get on a FitBIt. I think that still works great and it's still being sold. You're able to pick it up directly from Google. But what you get here is a connectivity option. The LTE adds that wireless connectivity option when you're outside of the house. And of course, it does drain the battery a little bit more, but it does give you that extra functionality of being able to have text messages forwarded, calls notification forwarded, anything that comes through to your phone as a notification will push through to the watch, and I think that's the main benefit. But again, keep in mind when you're setting it up, you need to set that up directly with your phone company. Like an example for me was T-Mobile. At the time of the watch setup, it's actually part of the process. If you do it after, they're going to ask you to reset the watch, which unfortunately kind of makes it so that you lose some of that information. So for me, that ended up causing me to change my phone, and I will basically be putting it back on the Pixel 7 Pro as I'm transitioning my data over from the Fold 4 directly to Pixel 7. So it's going to work for everybody a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, Google did a very good first generation smartwatch from them that integrates and showcases the FitBIt acquisition that they had not that long ago. So with that being said, again, my likes are definitely very nice, very positive things, and my dislikes are more so over personal preference. I'm not going to be harping on the fact that, they didn't make a bigger size. Obviously, this is supposed to be more of a Fitbit. Fitbit watches are not made to be very big. Again, this is more of the aesthetics. But I would obviously definitely appreciate maybe having an additional option. So we'll have to see what the second generation will do. But again, in the current generation, with what it does, it does really nice, and it works very well with any device that you're able to install it on. As you saw, I installed it on a Samsung phone and on a Pixel phone, and it worked just as well. You download the watch application, you download the Fitbit app, and you're set. Thank you very much for Google to allow me to actually check out this watch. This was sent to me for review as well as the Pixel 7 Pro. So I want to say thank you very much to Google for doing so. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I would love to be able to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this? And does this actually appeal to you as a smartwatch or as a solution for smartwatches on the market right now? Thank you very much. Like and subscribe as usual. I'll see you in the next video.